a 1967 Hemi Belvedere Super Stock, a 1969 Hemi GTX Super Stock, a 1968 Barracuda Super Stock, a 1968 Barracuda 340E Stock, and the 1970 Cuda Pro Stock. All Soxham Martin Plymouth, all in red, white, and blue, and all in 1/18th scale. Let's check them out. Okay, so let's get right into it. This is a 1967 Plymouth Hemi Belvedere Super Stock. The model was made by Highway 61 for Supercar Collectibles. The item number is 50028. The box notes that this is Heritage Racing Series number 9. It's one of 2,502 made, and it was released back in 2002. I'm not unboxing any of these models since they were already displayed in my cabinets for years, so this is basically an overview. I got into these cars back in 2015 when I started reading about Soxham Martin's history. Aside from the lovely colors and the fact that these cars were all Plymouth, and there's absolutely nothing more appealing to me than Plymouth, the team's story was rich and interesting, and we all love a success story. I'm not exactly the most qualified to tell Soxham Martin's story, so I'll link their website below with a couple of videos as well. This one has slick tires in the back and red lines in the front, and I love red line tires. The slick tires have significantly more grip on dry surfaces than treaded ones, which in drag racing equals better acceleration, so faster racing times. The model has a working suspension, as it's the case with all Highway 61 diecast. The hood scoop is obnoxiously big and I love it. The racing stripe in the middle goes hard across the whole car and it's pretty cool. The sponsors are painted on both sides of the model, as they are in the real-life car. The paint job is smooth and the model is pretty shiny. This is a stock 1967 Plymouth Belvedere 4-door sedan, and this is Soxham Martin's 67 Hemi GTX Super Stock. Under the hood you'll find a pretty detailed Hemi engine, plumbed and wired as they always say on the box, and it's lovely to look at. The Belvedere's engine bay is huge, so the engine kinda looks a bit small here. The Hemi V8 was Soxham Martin team's most lethal engine since the mid-1960s, and with it they conquered plenty of drag strips across the United States. Inside the trunk or boot, you can see the glossy vinyl-covered floor, properly fit. The trunk-mounted battery was and still is something that race teams do for car weight saving and to free up space in the front. It probably looks better as well. Ronnie Sox's name is on both the passenger and the driver door, which, you know, makes sense. Ronnie was the team's driver after all. The interior is in black, as you can see, and the seats do fold. I love bench seats, even though they were not from my generation. Really cool. The doors are detailed with handles, cranks, latches, and lock knobs, all looking good. The wheels are also steerable, another plus in my book. This is a very good diecast model, and a definite win for Highway 61 and Supercar Collectibles. Moving right along, this is car number 2 in this video, a 1969 Plymouth Hemi GTX Super Stock. The model was made by Ertl for Supercar Collectibles. The item number is 29110. The box says Heritage Racing Series number 2. It's one of 5,000 made, and it was released in the year 2000. So far, the only manufacturers I've seen make Soxham Martin themed 1/18th scale diecast in these colors are Highway 61, Ertl, Wally, and Acme, but I'm not sure if there might be others. I bought this one about 6 years ago as a part of my 8-month Socks & Martin shopping spree, and I had mixed feelings about it then. So let's talk about that. So about those feelings. The roof looks all scratched up because of paint cracks, and I get that it's an older model and it was in storage for over 25 years, but still, it looks awful. The orange peel on both doors isn't any better. And it also dampened my excitement when I initially took the model out of its box back then. Big disappointment. The rest of the paint looks okay, so it's not exactly a total loss. The model is pretty large in size. I guess just like the real GTX. This one should also have steerable front wheels, but the wheels can only be steered by hand, because the steering wheel simply doesn't do anything. I never really tried to fix it because I was already upset with its other issues. The seats don't fold, and the material Ertl used here is average, but the interior overall doesn't look cheap. It's actually pretty similar to a 69 GTX, with the Hurst floor-mounted shifter and the wood console and dash, so I'm counting this as one of the model's positives. Here's an actual 1968 Plymouth Hemi GTX and the Socks & Martin 68 GTX Superstock with the skinny wheels in the front. The Hemi in this one is pretty basic, not too plasticky but not too high-end either. I love air grabber hoods, but this one doesn't have a scoop on it. So maybe the assembly wasn't complete, the manufacturer was cutting cost, or I might be missing something here. The air grabber hood scoop provides cold air intake, allowing the engine to breathe more easily and increasing its performance by delivering cooler air into the carburetor, resulting into improved horsepower. Another similarity with the previous model, the racing stripe in the middle, all the way across the car. The trunk lines are clear, but the trunk itself doesn't open. The scratches on the rear stripe are still there from when I received it, also something I didn't bother to fix. I'm not a big fan of the 1969 GTX rear. I definitely prefer the 67 rear, but this is still a decent representation of it. The model also has Keystone mag wheels with Firestone Drag 500 white letter tires. In all honesty, I got an incredible deal on this one, so I simply just accepted that it has issues and moved on. At the end of the day, it's still a Plymouth. Next up, we have these two lovely 68 Barracudas. The models have plenty of similarities, but also important differences. So let's first of all move the e-stock aside for a minute and check out car 3 in this video, which is a 1968 Plymouth Barracuda Superstock. The model was made by Highway 61 for Supercar Collectibles. The item number is 50310. This is number 3 in the Socks & Martin series. It's one of 2,500 made. and it was released back in 2006. Unlike modern Mopar such as the Dodge Challenger SRT Superstock, these purpose-built race cars were of course not street legal because they lack essential road safety features like airbags and emission controls. The Barracuda is a legend of the drag racing scene, and the Soxham Martin 68 Superstock Hemi Barracuda is a prime example of that. The 1968 and 69 seasons were huge for the team as they dominated the sport and recorded plenty of important wins, including ones in the iconic NHRA US Nationals. Here's Soxham Martin's 1968 Barracuda SS in action. The frustration of finding paint crack on diecast models is every collector's nightmare, especially if you live somewhere where you can't just return the item that easily. This is pretty much the case with a couple of models in this video, as you can see here. It physically hurts me to see it. This one has a lift-off hood that requires you to remove the 4 hood pins, which I did earlier. Then you can remove the hood itself, which is pretty lightweight actually. Set it aside, and check out the 426 Hemi with dual 4-barrel carburetors, deep groove pulleys, and a magnesium cross-ram intake manifold. I lost some of the camera focus here, so I apologize for that. The trunk floor in this one is covered with all black vinyl, and the battery is also rear mounted. You might notice that these cars don't have any spoilers or wings because of the drag racing restrictions of that era, where the car's bodies were generally required to be stock, so no factory installed or aftermarket spoilers. The interior is a bit dark, but it's nicely done. It has working sun visors, which can be folded up and down, real cloth seat belts, carpeted floor, and a tachometer on the dash. I noticed something a bit unusual about this model, being that the passenger seat cannot be folded, but it can be moved forward and backwards. I don't recall seeing many of these in diecast, if any, but here it is. The steering wheel is functional, and the front wheels are steerable, so that's a relief. The driver's seat doesn't fold nor move, and I don't know if this is by design, or if it's another mystery for me to figure out. Sometimes it feels that there's always something either defective or unexplained in these older diecast models, but aside from the paint issues, I have to say that this is an awesome model. The fourth model is one that I love very much as well. This is a 1968 Plymouth Barracuda 340 E-Stock, also made by Highway 61 for Supercar Collectibles. The item number is 50574. This is number 7 in the Soxham Martin series. It's one of 1800 made, and it was released back in 2007. This was, I believe, the third Soxham Martin diecast I bought, and aside from the Belvedere GTX, the most attractive to me. The second gen Barracuda rear is a bit different than other pony cars. Looks almost more Australian than American. The paint job on this one is better than a couple of the others, but it's clearly not perfect. I love this type of rear wheels. Black on black, looks menacing. Slicks in the back of course, and skinnies in the front, as you would expect from a drag racing machine. This is a stock 1968 Plymouth Barracuda Fastback. The hood on this Barracuda is a normal one, with hinges, as opposed to the lift-off hood in 2 of the 5 cars in this video. In contrast to the previous model, this one has windshield wipers, an antenna, a sponsor or 2 less than the 68 Superstock. The Soxham Martin logo on the doors is way smaller. The 5-spoke wheels and the skinny tires on them are very well made, and they are steerable here as well. Pretty shiny too. The model has a working suspension and an almost identical interior, albeit with folding seats. Just like the real-life car, you can see a driver's side mirror and a window crack in the door in this one, as opposed to the Superstock, which had its crank mechanism removed and the seatbelt straps used on the door's windows, and its side mirror deleted. It also features real cloth seatbelts, carpet, a Hurst shifter, and a tachometer on the dashboard. Under the hood is a 340 cubic inch, 4-barrel carb, small block V8 engine, detailed and fully wired. You might notice that the battery is mounted in the engine bay in this one, unlike some of the previous models. The 340 V8 was a newcomer from Chrysler in 1968, an engine which was equally suited for drag strip or street performance use. The trunk is a bit loose here, so I'll have to hold it with my thumb to keep it open. It's fitted with black carpet on the inside and has the famous Barracuda emblem on the outside. I chose to ignore this issue and keep the model at the time in order to avoid RMA and an international return, but these models were out of production a long time ago. So even if I had returned it, chances to get a new replacement were slim to none. I don't regret buying any of these, by the way, even with their existing problems. Wrapping up the video with the fifth model, a 1970 Plymouth Cuda Pro Stock. The model was made by Ertl for Supercar Collectibles. The item number is 29168P. This is number 1 in the Pro Stock series. It's one of 3,500 made, and it was released back in 2002. I'm unsure if the P in the item number stands for prototype or Pro Stock, since this was Ertl's first Pro Stock model, as was written on its box. The Plymouth Barracuda is my favorite car of all time, and ever since 2011, when I started collecting diecast, I racked up around 35 second and third gen Cudas between Hurst, AAR, Street Fighter, Concept, Super Street, convertibles, Trans Am, and more. The more Mopar, the better. Here's a stock 1970 Plymouth Cuda 440 and the real-life Soxon Martin 70 Pro Stock Cuda. This one has a pop-off style hood, but no hood pins. Not even fake ones. Just markers, I guess. A tool is required to pry it open, and I always recommend a plastic one. The hood scoop isn't fake. The hood itself is super light, and it has the words Little Boss printed on it in gold. The 426 Hemi is probably the highlight of this model, with pretty decent attention to detail on the engine. The collector's edition Ertls I have in my collection are not bad at all. In fact, they're very good in terms of value, since they were considered cheap back in the day. But the engine here is definitely superior to them. Not exactly Ertl authentics, but I'll take it. The trunk is clearly sealed shut, but of course I'll try to open it because of muscle memory or just old habits. I really like this badge right here. Super Stock Services Association member. Pretty awesome. Another set of Firestone Drag 500 white letter tires on Keystone mag wheels. Fits the model perfectly. The wheels are also steerable here, and in my opinion, the interior is just above average. I always wondered what it would be like to be part of that world in drag racing. It must have been really special standing close to these cars, or even being part of this team. Maybe one day we'll see a movie about this iconic duo. There are of course other Sox and Martin diecast models out there, but I don't have all of them in my collection, so I'm sharing the ones I do have. I'm glad Ronnie Sox's name is actually painted right here, and not just a sticker. It would have been nice to have Mr. Sox's signature on this model, but I'm still happy with it. And there you have it, folks. I think that's about the most I ever talked this year. But I made this video because I love Plymouth. I respect this racing team. And I wanted to make kind of a special episode when I reach a new milestone on this channel. For a non-YouTuber like me, it's a big deal to see people interested in my videos. And I'm grateful there's more than one person, my wife, who can stand the sound of my voice. I'm gonna take a break from uploading videos for a while, but I'll be back when possible. If you made it all the way here, I thank you for watching, and I wish you all a wonderful day. And that's that.